5 o'clock according to staff, so we're ready to go. Let's call this meeting, this joint meeting of the Gainesville City Commission and the Gainesville Housing Authority Board of Directors to order. And Madam Clerk.
Need a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Chair Thorpe.
At this time, we'd like to call to order a meeting of the Gainesville Housing Authority through the joint meeting with the City Commission. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Let it show that the agenda has been adopted.
All right, very good. Madam Clerk, it looks like we just have the one item on the agenda.
That is correct. 2023-337, City of Gainesville and Gainesville Housing Authority Partnership with a recommendation that the Commission and the GHA discuss their current partnership and future partnership opportunities and take action deemed necessary.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I appreciate everyone being here and bringing ideas to the table. I think it's important that every now and then, we haven't done it in too long, that we get together as both organizations and have a conversation about what we are looking for as a commission regarding affordable housing and what you all are working on and how we can make all of that work together as well as possible for the community.
We like that too.
Meeting over. That was fast.
We're on the same page.
I understand we have a presentation.
Yes.
Does anybody want to weigh in before we get there? Or? Okay. All right.
And for the presentation, I'm going to open it up, but the CEO of the Gainesville Housing Authority, Pam Davis, will do the bulk of the presentation.
All right.
Next page. Who controls it?
I got you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Malcolm.
Now we
Thank
feel
you.
better.
Malcolm, please introduce yourself.
Malcolm McKiner, GHA staff, the COO.
Thank you. So the Gainesville Housing Authority was formed in August 1st of 1996 by an executive order from the city, from the Gainesville city. And so GHA currently has 44 employees. What did I say?
96.
44? Oh, 1996.
66.
66. I
That's
did it
okay.
again.
14.
I'm slightly dyslexic if people don't know, but 1966. 1966. And so, as it is right now, the powers for the Gainesville Housing Authority are invested in the Board of Commissioners, which are appointed by the mayor. Many of us were appointed by the previous mayor. Actually, I was appointed 2 mayors ago, but it's been a fun ride so far. The CEO, Pam Davis, is in charge of the daily operation management of the authority. Okay. I'm going to give each of the commissioners an opportunity just to introduce themselves, but I believe mostly everybody knows the commissioners as of this time.
I'm Craig Carter. I'm the Vice Chair of the Housing Authority.
I'm Gigi Simmons, and I'm a board member. Latanya Star Porter, board member.
Ralph Hillier, board member.
Okay. Thank you very much. Angela Tharp, current chairperson and board member. And the mission of the Gainesville Housing Authority is we perform as a performance-driven, customer-focused, sustainable business advocating and preserving for the development of affordable housing and self-sufficient opportunities. Our objective basically is if you are housed in any one of our communities, we want to make sure that you have the best living opportunities available, and we give you opportunities so that you no longer have to live there at some other given point in time. We would like to be able to make sure that if you so choose later on in life, you can afford something not in a Gainesville Housing Authority facility later on. Also, no.
I'm sorry.
You're too
I
fast
thought
for
you
me.
had it. My apologies. No good.
I'm going to take back the flicker. The vision is to be a leader in developing affordable housing to ensure that all of our Gainesville residents have access to high-quality housing, providing a foundation for improving their quality of life and achieving self-sufficiency. And later in the presentation, Pam is going to go over a series of programs that we try to achieve these goals and the vision through. Now we're good. Okay. The Gainesville Housing Authority 5-year strategic goals, and we've been in the process of these, and I personally believe we're doing very well. And Pam is also going to give you an update of where we are on each of these different goals, and I, again, believe we're doing very well. Portfolio management, repositioning, and expansion. We've given them a goal of increasing our affordable housing opportunities, whether it be additional vouchers, whether it be building new things, whether it be like the Woodland Lawn, recreating what we already have. Human resource management, you cannot do this by yourself. So creating teams and a system of employees that have a heart to give back to each of the residents and are fully capable and qualified to do the work that we need them to do to provide the best service to our residents. Self-sufficiency and independent living. We want you to not just live there. We want you to be able to take care of yourself. We want you to be able to take care of your families. We want to offer you the best opportunities available to be self-sufficient and make a living or start a business or whatever it may be that we can possibly help you achieve. Business orientation and sustainability. We like to believe that we're great stewards of the dollars we receive, whether it be by grants, whether it be by federal funds, state funds, city funds. It is our responsibility to operate each and every dollar as if it was our own dollar and spend it accordingly. So we try to operate as a business more so than a non-for-profit or public institution. Board leadership. This is the team. I believe that it's filled with quality leadership from a variety of different experiences. We are very blessed to have each and every person on the board. And community and regional engagement, we cannot do it alone. So we strive to build the best community relationships and partnerships that we possibly can to be able to help our residents and build quality housing. And then marketing and image branding. We found out that many people, one, either do not know who we are or they have a misconception about what we do. Hello, good morning, good afternoon. And so we strive, or we're striving to make sure that people understand who the Gainesville Housing Authority is, what we are doing in the community, and educate people on how they can help us assist in our goals. And Pam is going to take over at this time.
Now you know why she's our chair.
I don't go too fast.
No, you did it.
Good evening. My name is Pam Davis. I am the CEO of the Gainesville Housing Authority. I just want to give a little brief background of the housing needs in our community. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition is where these statistics come from, that 44% of the renters of the population in Gainesville are renters. The annual income needed to afford a 2-bedroom unit is $41,520 a year. The affordable housing rate for a full-time worker at minimum wage is $520. So when you look at the annual income required and what the affordable housing rate is for a full-time worker that's at minimum wage, you can see where the gaps are in our community. The number of work hours required to afford a 2-bedroom at minimum wage is 80 hours per week at minimum wage. The fair market rent for a 2-bedroom unit in Gainesville, Alachua County, is $1,038. An SSI monthly payment is roughly $841. So rent affordable for someone with SSI is $251 a month. That's a long way from the $1,038 that a normal 2-bedroom would go for in our community. And those statistics just kind of put things in perspective to us as it relates to the gaps we have and the needs in our community. Let's talk about GHA's waiting list. All of our waiting lists are currently closed. However, between both our Housing Choice Voucher Program and our public housing program, we have 184 elderly families on that list, 720 families that are either handicapped or disabled, and then the number of families, currently we have 3,479. So we have well over 5,000 people on our waiting list. Now, as I stated, our waiting list is closed. Should we open that waiting list, it can exceed those numbers. I also want to give you a kind of a look at where our families fall that we serve. Of course, Gainesville Housing Authority serve our most vulnerable clients in our community. And I picked an AMI for a family of 4 to share with you. So extremely low income residents, and for in our county, that is someone who earns $27,750 or less. Well, for the Gainesville Housing Authority, we have 2,755 clients that are extremely low. Those are the clients that we serve. Very low income for a family of 4. The limit is $40,950. We serve 634 families. For low-income families, the county median income is $65,500. We serve 381 individuals or families that fit within that income limit. So as you can see, the Gainesville Housing Authority really focus on the extremely low. Some of that is by design. The HUD requires that 40% of our new admissions to public housing are people who are extremely low income. That means that they fall, if it's a family of 4, below $27,750. For our Section 8 program, they require that 70% of our new admissions are extremely low. What happens is we have a lot of people, what we call the working poor, that stays on our waiting list for a substantial amount of time because the government requires that we serve the extremely low first. And that's why the board created GHDMC, which is our instrumentality to try to address housing needs for the working poor. Those individuals that, because we are mandated by HUD to serve the extremely low, that we are not touching in our community. So to put it in perspective, if we have 100 people that have an opportunity to be housed on our Section 8 program, 70 of those 100 would have to be extremely low. I want to share with you our demographics of our housing stock. Currently, we have 544 units that the Gainesville Housing Authority own and operate. We have 3 units under our nonprofit, our instrumentality, that are public housing units. These are units that the Housing Authority has developed with the Faircloth, which is some of the units that we demolished at Woodland Park when we did the Grove. We were able to, HUD will allow us to use those units. And so we've been able to put 3 public housing units in and around Alachua County. 1 in the city of Gainesville, and 1 is on one of the properties that we got from the city, and 2 out in the county. We have a duplex that you'll see later on. We have 30 ACC units, which are public housing in the Grove. We serve 1,388 family members in our public housing site. 694 of those people are 18 years or older, and our average age of our youth is 9 years old, and 84% of our families are single head of households. In our Housing Choice Voucher Program, we have 1,758 vouchers that are allocated to the Housing Authority. And we have several special vouchers that we've received. We have 263 VASH vouchers, that is housing for veterans. We have 163 mainstream. Mainstreams are for families that are between the ages of 18 and 61 who are disabled. Those vouchers are specifically for disabled and handicapped that are between the ages of 18 and 61. We received 27 emergency housing vouchers, 41 family unification, that's FUB, that's the program that we are in partnership with, Partnership for Strong Families. They give us the referral. These are, vouchers are for youth that are transitioning out of foster care, and also for families who are in jeopardy of losing their children because of the need for housing. And so families who fit under the FUB can go straight to Partnership for Strong Families, and they make the referrals to us. We have 13 stability vouchers, and these vouchers are for families that are victims of domestic violence, and we have a partnership with Peaceful Path. They provide us with the referrals for those families. And then we have 6 home ownership vouchers. We have 6 families who have utilized their vouchers and purchased a home with their housing choice voucher. We also have 268 landlords in our community that partners with the Housing Authority, and we pay out annually in 2022 $10,790,000 to those landlords. Our current portfolio, we have 100 units at Oak Park, 70 at Sunshine. Caroline Manors is 28 households. Forest Pines, 36. Lake Terrace, 100. Pine Meadows, 83. Woodland Park, 70 units. Eastwood Meadows is our only unit that's in the county under the Housing Authority. And we have Sweetwater Preserve, where we have, as I stated earlier, 33 ACC units and 60 project-based vouchers. And that's our current portfolio with the Gainesville Housing Authority. But under Gainesville Housing Development and Management Corporation, which is our instrumentality, we have 10 scatter sites. We have 3 units, the trio at North Lincoln Heights. This is a property that the city donated to us and told us that we needed to build something on it within 2 years. So we did one better. We put 3 modular homes on that property that we lease to families with special needs. And these are the disabled. All of those units are currently leased up, and it's in North Lincoln Heights. We have a duplex that we just recently built in the county. It's in the Sugarfoot area. And we have 3 units in Micanopy. It's a duplex that we purchased in a cottage. And then we have 2 single-family homes in the city of Gainesville. We also have Stonehill townhouses in Alachua, where we have 18 townhomes that we rent as a part of our portfolio housing opportunity. We have also partnered with the city for the 302 house, where we had 1 single-family home, and we're hoping to break ground very soon. The architects are finalizing the drawing. We will come back with a 3-bedroom home with an attached accessory developed and 1 unattached 1-bedroom ADU there. Malcolm?
Okay. Malcolm Kiner, GHA staff. So these are just some examples of the properties that Ms. Pam just discussed. This is the duplex. We completed this project, and I apologize I didn't take one with the beautifully manicured driveway and grass, but this is a duplex we finished up, I believe it was last April or so, or last March or so. Again, as she said, these units are for families with disabilities. All new interiors, very, very proud of this. And actually, we're currently under contract for a half-acre parcel that's just 2 lots over, with the looking to build either a triplex or quadruplex, because this was only on a 1/4 acre, so we think we can do a little bit more on a larger lot. This is the Grove at Sweetwater Preserve. So many of you are familiar with our Woodland Park redevelopment. This was phase 1. This was completed in the spring of 2020. Again, as Ms. Pam said, we have several project-based vouchers there, as well as public housing units in this development. We're currently pursuing the redevelopment of Woodland Park Phase 2, which would also be an additional brand-new 96 units, new clubhouse, workout room, all new facilities. As many of you know, Woodland Park is well over 50 years old and is in need of redevelopment. So this is conceptual design of the ADU unit that she mentioned. We had a single-family home on this lot. We have since demoed that and are going through the drawings with the architect. And as she said, it'll more or less be a single-family home with an attached unit, about a 500 to 600 square foot attached unit, and then another detached unit at about the same square footage, 500 to 600 square foot. So we ultimately will go from one home to 3 homes for our participants. And so with this, I'll turn it over to our CFO.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Michelle Beans, and I'm going to talk about how GHA gets its funding. We apply for an operating subsidy on an annual basis, and there is an algorithm that takes into consideration what our residents pay in rent and what it actually takes to run the program, and then we get a percentage of that. So as you can see here, we use a formula that includes resident rents, annual operating expenses, including utilities, and that funds a portion of what it takes to run the housing authority. And our resident rents for fiscal year 22 in AMP1, which is AMPs are asset managed property, and it's the grouping that HUD has us put everything into. With AMP1 is Woodland Park and Eastwood Meadows, and our average resident rent there is $260. And AMP2, which is Oak Park and Sunshine Park, we are at $263.64, and AMP3, which is Lake Terrace, Pine Meadows, Forest Pines, Caroline Manor, our average is $182.21. This is the property that we have the Jobs Plus grant for, so it is only on AMP3. But you can see that, as if, for instance, at AMP1, our per unit month expenses annualized are a little over $1,000 per unit, and our funding is coming in right around $700 between subsidy and that. So what we get to augment that is, the capital fund. And this year, I think it was announced that we had a $1.9 million capital fund. That comes down to, if we can go to the next, if we can, it's about $3,596 per unit. And you can see it has increased over the years, but a part of that is because a lot of the housing authorities are repositioning, they're taking their stock out of the public housing forum, and so that has the same pot but fewer players in it. And so that's what has actually been the increase, not so much that there's been a substantial amount of additional funding. So, and that's the public housing. On the voucher side, which is the largest program that the Housing Authority has, we're funded through admin fees, so that's what runs the program. And then our housing assistance payments come from basically what we spent last year, and it's budgeted again with a proration. So it depends upon an inflation factor, and then a percentage of that is what we're actually funded. And for the first time, actually, in fiscal year 23, the projection was that our administrative revenue would actually outpace the expense. But of the 4 years that are there, that's the only year that it has occurred. And you can see that the calendar year 23 per unit or per voucher funding has actually declined. And so, you know, that will put us back into those former years, I'm sure. And then the next one is actually our local impact. GHA is kind of the silent engine on the east side of town. And in calendar or fiscal year 22, I know the other slide had a different number, but it's calendar year and fiscal year is the difference. And from our audited financials for fiscal year 22, we expended $11,088,602 in housing assistance payments. The contracting costs that we paid in fiscal year 22 was $916,000, and that primarily is local contractors that we're using to do our unit turns, do our plumbing and those kinds of things. And then utilities is, we pay directly to GRU, $700,576. And then in salaries, just salaries, no benefits and that kind of thing, because it's not a local expense, is $2,237,081. With that, I'm going back to Pam or to...
Yes, it's me. And with my eyes, I can't see the screen.
Oh, right.
So, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Makes me feel better about it.
So, I was born with these eyes, and they're not getting any better. So, in terms of our programs and services, this kind of re-highlights the slides that Ms. Pam went over in terms of the number of vouchers that we have out on the street, not out on the street, but that we have. Like to highlight a couple of things that we work with the city on, Andrew and his folks, the voluntary inclusionary zoning projects that allow us to place some of our voucher residents in these new apartments that are in the pipeline, and that be Lincoln Ventures, that's 10 units in the pipeline, and then CASL development off of, I guess, that's 2nd Avenue, which will be an additional 20 units. And we're really excited about this opportunity to place our participants in these area of opportunities, just to see how those families can thrive and grow. We also have expanded our HCVP, Housing Choice Voucher Program, and have entered into 20-year contracts. And this is a great tool for private development and private developers. With Eden Park, they are eligible for up to 25 project-based vouchers. And if you don't know what that means, it's a voucher that instead of following an individual, it's a voucher that stays with that apartment unit for 25 years. So there'll be a subsidy on that unit as tenants come and go. And so 25 for Eden Park, 26 vouchers for Horizon and Sunset off of 16th. And we just closed and wrapped up an RFP where Deer Creek, the new development near the Senior Center, is looking to be eligible for 28 of their 64 units with a project-based voucher, putting a subsidy on those units. So, Pam, I'll let you, well, I'll try to describe this. This isn't my side of the house with our resident services department. And as, you got it? Okay.
Well, they know resident services is at my heart, so I will talk about resident services. We, maybe about almost 4 years ago now, we received a Job Plus grant from HUD. It was $2.3 million. I think everybody remembered that grant. And the beautiful thing about this grant was for our AMP3, which is our Pine Meadows, Lake Terrace, Caroline Manor, and Forest Pine properties, the families could work as much as they want, and the rent would not increase from earnings, right? So that meant that if they had child support, Social Security, any other unemployment, their rent would go up as usual. But if they went out, got a job, if the son that was 18 got a job, the boyfriend, the husband got a job, if they participated in the JPEID program, their rent would not go up for 4 years. So through this program, we had over 119 families to apply. And of that 119 families, we actually had 53 individuals that benefited from the program, which means that they receive the JPEID, the Earned Income Disallowance. That the income, they started working, but instead of their rent increasing, it did not from their earnings. And that dollar amount that they were able to save, well, we have here $540,955, But I think we worked on it again, because HUD had just asked us to update it, and we're up to over $600,000 that our residents saved, money they were able to keep in their pockets for them and their family by participating in the Job Plus program. So we're very proud of that. These families were able to save money, and so part of the grant would reimburse the housing authority for this amount where the rent should have went up. The other thing that we're proud of in 2022 is in contract costs, our residents earned $223,750 from the housing authority in contracts for us, delivering services for the housing authority. Again, that's money that was able to go into our family's pocket. And some of our residents, through salaries that they earned because the housing authority hired them, earned $139,325 in 2022. And so we are very proud of our economic empowerment program with our residents. We definitely want to provide every opportunity to them to be able to move in, to move up, and to move out. And the board has been very supportive of this initiative, and it is part of our vision. It is part of who we are in making sure that we can provide economic empowerment for our residents. Capital funds improvement. Currently, we have 70 units remaining at Woodland Park. We have applied for the 9% tax credit to demo and rehab the remaining 70 units that's there. We are looking at renovating Oak Park and Sunshine Park. We're looking at RAD, which is a rental assistant demonstration program, and using 4% tax credit to rehab those two properties. Oak Park is almost 50 years old. The systems are failing us. We have to find a way to go in and make the necessary repairs. We're looking at possible home ownership opportunities for Forest Pines. We're also looking at redevelopment for Pine Meadows and Lake Terrace. We wanted to look at Choice Neighborhood, and it's so befitting. We had a meeting today. Malcolm and I just got off of a webinar with HUD. They announced the Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant and Implementation Grant today. We have 60 days to get an application together for the planning grant. We believe that it's a great opportunity for Pine Meadows and Lake Terrace. For a city has to be a part of that grant. We can either be co-partners in that grant, so we'll be talking more about that. We received a $250,000 grant from HUD for safety improvements, and with that grant, we are to put carbon monoxide smoke detectors in all of our properties where required, and to put in new security doors at Caroline Manors, Forest Pines, and Eastwood Meadows. We, maybe about a month ago, just signed a contract with Ulrich Construction to do $1.1 million of exterior improvement at Carolina Manors. That's where we have 28 units. We will be doing new roofs. We'll put new lighting. We will do new doors, new HVAC system. And then we are in the cusp of talking about putting another $700,000 into Caroline Manors. Of course, when we use most of our capital funds in this manner, it delays improvement in some other areas. But we believe to be impactful, we need to take a property at a time so we can, and the community can benefit from the impact of the improvements. So we'll be putting about $1.8 million into Caroline Manors. And I know Ulrich is already putting everything out to bid, and so we're hoping that that'll get started in the next couple of months. Kent, you want to talk about the city?
So, as you all are aware, most of the time, not the new city commissioners, but I've told you those that I've met with, when you see me normally, I'm asking for something. And when I'm asking for something, it leads to some of these partnerships that we have with the city, and we're proud to be a partner and work with the city, and that's obviously why we're here. But we executed an MOU with the city to work as an affordable housing provider for the city, or with the city, I should say, last year. There was a funding commitment for the exterior of the Boys and Girls Club improvements from Wild Spaces, Public Places. That is set to move forward with the redevelopment of Woodland Park Phase 2 because they're right next to each other. There was the land donation that we talked about with the trio at North Lincoln Heights. You gave us one lot, we subdivided it, and were able to put 3 new modular homes on that lot. And so we really are appreciative of that partnership through home funds. Again, an additional Wild Spaces commitment was made in 2017 to install an exercise trail at Woodland Park, Phase 2. And so we're really excited to add that amenity for our residents and within our community. The 302 house, through CDBG and home funding, we were awarded $41,000 in CDBG and $50,000 in home that we must leverage by, I believe it's the end of your fiscal year. So we are excited, and that's why we're really pushing our architect to get these projects complete so we can get in the ground. And then what you see here a picture of, and we didn't put it in the presentation, and that's my fault, is something that we hope to be inviting you to soon, a groundbreaking for training, our elite training center. And so what this is we are repurposing a building that was a former daycare center in the Pine Meadows community and turning it into a training center. And this will be for our residents and also what HUD calls Section 3 participants, which are other folks from the broader community that will have access to this training center. Our thought process now, as we build it out, is that we'll focus on trades related to apartment management, since we own and operate apartments and are always in need of those folks. But we also have had conversations with the Apartment Association, and there is a need of qualified employees in that industry in general. So that's where we want to start with that. And I believe, I guess this is kind of our call of action, and I guess that's why Ms. Pam asked me to come up here, because I don't come here unless I'm asking you for something. And so, as the city manager knows in our conversations along with city staff, this Choice Neighborhood Grant, I'll just reiterate, I brought copies of not the entire NOFA, but the announcement of the NOFA I can share with the board. Would be a great opportunity for the city and the Housing Authority to come together and really focus on East University Avenue and doing something that could really be a game changer for that area. And I encourage you all to just Google the Choice Neighborhood and take a look at examples of projects throughout the country that have been awarded. This would be not the implementation, but the planning grant, which would offer us money for us, the city, and all of the community partners that we'd invite to the table to really plan what we're going to do. And then we will follow up with the implementation grant, which would help to actually execute the deal and actually do the construction. But resources, obviously procurement, knowledge, training, and I think with that, we'll wrap up and let you all conduct the business of the day.
Very good, thank you. You all did a great job getting us through that, and then we'll have a number of questions. Commissioner Sacco is first on the list here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, everyone. Very informative. Could we get a copy of that sent over? There were numbers, and I can't write fast enough. But no, it was good and sad numbers, so a little of both. I think especially with that waiting list, the numbers are staggering. But one thing that did really get my attention, and if Mr. Malcolm could let us know more, or anyone who does know how else y'all are leveraging these, the 20-year, 25-year contracts of subsidizing the unit versus a voucher to the person. So I know that one of the bigger issues is often, first month, last month security deposit. That's a lot up front. Even if you have a way to pay monthly, it is hard to enter. So I think this way is a way around that issue for a lot of folks if y'all are holding the unit down. And I'm wondering if that's a way forward that you're considering for future units or future use of vouchers, because that entry barrier is kind of removed.
Absolutely. Many of our clients, we went that way for a couple of reasons, and HUD allow us to project-based out vouchers. But one of the biggest being is that some of our clients are having a very difficult time finding a unit. right? And we're trying to re-educate the community that it's not the lower your income, because if I give a voucher right now to Craig and one to Angela, depending on their income, they both might have a 2-bedroom voucher, but when they go out into the community, what their voucher will be valued could be very different. If Angela has no income, she may have to go look for a 1-bedroom for $800. If Craig come in with some income, he might go up to the 110%, which is our current payment standard, and be able to go look for a unit for $941 a month, right? We have a lot of families who aren't able to find a unit for the voucher amount. And there are some biases toward the voucher program. And having units that are readily available guarantees in perpetuity that we will have affordable housing units in our community. And so these developers and owners who are willing to collaborate and partner with us to allow the voucher to belong to their building allows the opportunity to have these units long-term. So the contract is 25 years. We currently have 2 contracts. We're working with Eden Park and Horizon, and as Malcolm said, Deer Creek will be coming on. The board approved it at our last meeting, so now we just have to get with them to get the paperwork and everything in order. We just got another call from someone in the community that's interested. And so we want to make sure that these vouchers aren't just sitting there, but they can get utilized and get utilized quickly.
I think it's a great idea. That's why I'm asking, like, is this kind of a pivot
Yes.
of the housing authority of, you saw the problem, this is an opportunity, and I think you're getting proof of concept with
Absolutely.
some of the others. Because it hurt me in our conversation, and I think conversation I've been hearing for a while, that despite our anti-discrimination ordinance on source of income, that folks are still not being able to get in because they just raised the entry barrier. So I'm happy to see that.
Yes, thank you.
And I look forward to you proving to other landlords and bigger companies, like, yes, we could do this, put us in. Because I think it also helps, I think it removes a little bit of the choice aspect, but it helps the readiness factor, which I think most people would prefer at the end of the day. The other question I had, and this is more in the, how can we help you component? So I saw the duplex. I think it's adorable. I love it.
Thank you.
Even without the grass or the driveway, I think it's great. And I heard one of my favorite words, quadruplex, which could be a triplex. That's fine. I'll still like it. But I think as far as y'all acquiring property and where you can acquire it and the max use of it, is there anything we can do at that from like our main power zoning and land use? So like at that point, what is helpful to y'all that we can leverage to make the most use of that?
You're a cheated property. If you have some, you can donate those properties to us. We've received 2 from the city of Gainesville. One was a single-family home that we rehabbed, and we sold to one of our public housing residents. We rehabbed it, we put in new systems, which are electrical, plumbing, HVAC, to make sure that, if a low-income resident is getting housing, you want to make sure that the systems are working and that they can afford to take it. So one of our public housing residents purchased the home and was able to also benefit, and we didn't count that impact. She got some money from CDBG or home for down payment assistance. City staff worked very well with us to make sure she could get into that home and become a first-time home buyer.
Great. Were all those properties single-family zoning? Like, were they in already established single neighborhoods, or was it?
Yes,
like,
it was in Lincoln
okay.
Estates.
Okay.
That particular one was in Lincoln Estates. So any lots, any homes, or, in different communities, they are repurposing even warehouses and other things for housing. So there are opportunities that we can work with the city and the staff on and come up with some very creative ways. Right now, that choice neighborhood is the low-hanging fruit that we believe The properties on University would be an excellent property for us to go after, especially since you got so much economic development going on there with some additional housing that's going on in that street, as well as some economic development. There's opportunity to demo and come back with double the amount of units. And so that will be a great partnership for us to see if we can get some of the planning dollars. Now, they did say that you don't have to go through and get their planning dollars. We can do it on our own and then go for the implementation dollars. But they will have over $30 million for implementation grant under the Choice Neighborhood. Right now, for redevelopment for us, we've been using the 9%. That really has been the only game in town for us. We're looking at 4% because we believe we can leverage our RAD program to kind of make those numbers work for Oak Park and Sunshine Park. But I believe going after the Choice Neighborhood where we all can really impact a community would be most helpful for us.
And I want to just point out, in addition, if you guys do help us with donating more lots and different things like that, it's also a benefit to the city because you're taking a lot that was not on the real estate tax, and now you get taxes for it. And
Oh,
so
I'm a fan.
it's a benefit both ways. And so, yes.
Also, I'm not sure of the balance on Connect Free right now, but that's another way that you can help us. That money sits there, and this is its goal.
Yeah.
So that'd be another option as we get things going. So we really love some options there too.
And I think my last point, and then I'll shut up, I promise. As far as creativity, I did like seeing the use of, you had a property with one single-family home, and then you kind of just bulldozed it and redesigned the use of that lot to maximize use. And I think the numbers were like a 1,400 square foot home, main home, and then the ADUs are about 500, which is a nice studio, one bedroom, like that's functional. So I really am happy to see y'all put that into effect. Because I think that really shows like, I'm sure it matches the neighborhood and it is pretty and it's gonna be great and someone's gonna love living there. A lot of someones are gonna love living there. But I think it really demonstrates like the best use of that tool and how it can be incorporated. So I really was excited to see that component. That one's not finished yet, right? That one's still building?
No. Unfortunately, everybody is having problems with staffing, so our AE had some issues, but we're meeting with them weekly and we're getting them to jump on it. We're telling them how important it is to get that moving for us.
Okay. So I think I heard Malcolm say like we're working with the architects, and I can't speak to the main house, but I think Mr. Persons was talking about sustainable development, trying to produce ADU plans to just go forward and have them available, a series of them, so that in future, those are just available freely. Like here's already a setup, how much land are you looking for, and that those can be just given out.
That would be great.
Which I think could also help if you have someone interested in having an ADU and accepting vouchers in that scenario through their main home.
Yeah.
But I liked most of what I heard. Some of the numbers made me sad.
Yes.
But overall, like the creativity and the innovation of how to leverage land and dollars, I think is the right direction. Just trying to see where else we can help. But thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Oh, well, we got definitely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad Commissioner Sacco talked about the unit that's going to have the ADUs because on the city side, our community land trust will be using the 6 properties times 3 units per property, so potentially 18. And I assume it will end up looking somewhat along those lines of an attached ADU and then a separate ADU. So that's something that we're also venturing out into. Y'all may be slightly further along in that process than we are. It sounds like you're a little further along, but we will be following you, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot on that as well as y'all learn. I did have a couple questions. So do y'all map where your voucher recipients also live geographically? So I think for the public housing, it's easier to plot down on the map and kind of understand. But than where people, I know that changes probably
Yes.
somewhat frequently, but.
It's changing, it changes, and we haven't done it post-COVID. I can't share with you all, though, the map that we had previously, and then we can get it done for you again.
Okay. I think it helps me, but also other people in the community, when we talk about kind of the rebranding of what public housing looks like, is some of it's just right around the corner and people don't know, it's just housing. It's just somehow publicly supported through nonprofit or public dollars. And then, how does Gainesville compare, since you manage a lot of these properties, how does Gainesville compare to other cities as far as the percentage of total homes that are either public housing or voucher supported, and that kind of comparison to either the county, cities in the county, or cities in Florida or in the nation?
When you say the number of homes that we have, are you saying the number of homes we administer compared to other housing authorities?
Well, no, like
or-
your percentage, so if you have, I can't remember the total number of your homes, divided by the total number of homes in the city of Gainesville, that percentage compared to other places, to some degree to have.
How much of Gainesville is managed by them?
Yeah, how many, what percentage of homes in Gainesville are you managing? Or through the voucher program impacting?
I'll have to look at that for you.
I like
don't
that
know
kind of
right-
data, so we
Okay.
sometimes understand,
We'll write
how big of an impact, not just the total dollars,
Absolutely.
but the percentage, so we can use it to compare to other cities, other counties. Because sometimes it's important for us to realize all these numbers, there's a big impact.
Yes.
And then as we work on some of our housing, affordable housing issues, we've been looking back to really understand kind of the real impact of what we're doing. Because some of it gets lost in a lot of different programs. A little easier now that we pulled it into more tightly into one department. But I think it's kind of important to look at.
We'll get that for you.
Thank you so much. And when I saw that number about $1,000 expense per unit in your AMP1 properties, but then obviously the amount that comes in rent, having to make up, I think sometimes people don't understand that even an old property, the cost to manage it and maintain it through everything is a lot more than people realize. It's not just a property that costs nothing.
Absolutely. And that's why HUD really wants to do away with public housing, because they understand that that's a formula that no longer works. There is not enough subsidy. Public housing is not like Section 8. If we charge if a landlord charges $1,000 for rent and the client can only pay $30, HUD provides the $970 different. With public housing, they just do a formula. And so that formula is just an average for all your property. Doesn't matter the bedroom size, doesn't matter the wear and tear on the property. So it is what it is. So we take our rents, which you saw how low, right, the average rent amount is, the capital fund that HUD gives us, and the operating subsidy, and that's all we really have to manage our property. So we do a phenomenal job for what we have. And yet, there is so much more we need to do. Our properties are aging. I'll give you Oak Park for an example. Lately, we take care of a leak, another one springs somewhere else. The maintenance is ongoing, and that shows us that we need to do something different, more. That you can no longer put a Band-Aid on it. It needs some total redevelopment. And so that's where we're looking for partnerships, we're looking for funding in the community, maybe at the state, the federal, whatever level, so that we can sustain this housing long term. Right now, all of our properties are almost 50 years old, so we have a very aging stock. They need a lot of love. And that's why we decided to just try to take our smaller properties first and do a major rehab where we can. And that's why the Choice neighborhood will be a fantastic opportunity for our community and for our housing stock to preserve long-term. We have 180 units there now, but if we're able to get Choice neighborhood and an implementation grant, we can double what's there and impact a community.
Thanks. And then about the voluntary inclusion zoning that the city has done, that's still coming up. No one's been moved into those units yet.
No.
But it's, one of them's coming soon, right?
One is soon. We're excited about that.
Getting soon. The other one is
Absolutely.
much later. But it's been approved and moving along. How are y'all feeling about that? You know, are you excited? Is it, how is it changing some of your structures or some of the, you know, because this is decidedly different than what we've done in the past.
Absolutely.
The type of housing that it's going to be in, the typology is very different. I just have a lot of questions like, do some of your, do you call them clients? I don't know what you, I missed that.
Participants.
Your participants, I'm sorry. Have they been hearing about this? Are people starting to ask questions? Is there interest? You know, come on the ground, not on the city side. How are people responding? How are people responding?
Yeah.
But then how is your organization itself kind of responding and preparing for it?
We're excited. First of all, these are units that will be in an area of opportunity where transportation is there, there's economic opportunity for jobs there for families. More importantly, it's a place where our youth will be able to see other kids or children go to college. There has been a Harvard study that shows that the impact for people living in areas of opportunity, we really see that in the youth that comes after the adults. So we're really excited, and we're hoping to maybe get with UF or Santa Fe and see if once we start this with these 30 families, that maybe we can get them to follow these families and see if we see that same kind of impact for our residents.
I love the idea of it's like a naturally occurring experiment where if we can measure it as they go along, it's a great opportunity. I'd hate to lose that. I hope UF is interested, or Santa Fe, or who else to come along for that ride, because it would be sad to not keep some of that data.
Yes.
To do some research for our own benefit, but for also other communities. Some of this is, some of the numbers, like Commissioner Sacco said, are staggering to kind of understand what fair market is, because I think a lot of people, particularly those who purchased a home or they inherited it years ago, it's rough. They don't understand. Recently, I was talking with some folks, and we talked about simulators for poverty, but not just the exercises not just for poverty, but then for returning post-prison or post-incarceration, but not just poverty or incarceration. A simulator for people who are not currently active seeking housing to understand the situation, and not just like some of these numbers suggest, not just someone who is just minimum wage, how they can survive, but looking for any type of housing for people to understand. And I think as someone who recently looked in the past 3, 4, 5 years and finally bought a very small apartment, bought an apartment about 2 years ago, I'm very much closer to the housing market to understand. But I think a lot of people in our community, they forget, and then even when they see these numbers, they forget again. But I wish there was a good simulator for people to go back and experience it, and then at different levels. But even the folks who are aging out, or not aging out, but succeeding out of your housing, it's a crazy world that they go out into.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons, then Commissioner Sacco, Commissioner Book.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add also with the inclusionary zoning opportunity that's offered. And as a board member, and I'm hoping I'm speaking on behalf of the board, we just think that's an excellent idea and an excellent opportunity, like Pam Davis said, for the younger generation or the next generation to be exposed to different things. And hopefully, again, with this opportunity, we can utilize this for future partnerships.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Sacco, Commissioner Book, Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think so one of the questions I had that I kind of blanked on was, as far as, because I'm thinking, the main question I'm thinking is how do we get landlords to accept that this is like a tried and true program? It's been around for decades. It's consistent pay, unless there's like a shutdown in DC, but usually pretty consistent, like 9 times out of 10, really consistent. And I know that you mentioned that there are folks who graduate from your program. Like that is the goal. The ultimate goal is to graduate from this step into something that doesn't require you. Do you have data on that kind of graduation or consistency of payment, consistency of those who are employed to some degree? They outside of their voucher, they can produce their portion on time, like that. There is a timeliness and efficiency to kind of show the reputation of the average participant is consistent, and so are you guys. And to be able to put that out to something like the apartment association, to other potential collaborators or landlords and smaller ones, or even those under management companies, like this is a consistently stable program and source of income. Please participate here. Do you have any like past entry data, like while in and graduation data?
Right. So we don't have data on whether our participants pay on time or not, but what we do is we have what we call chat and choose with our landlords, where we try to educate them on the program, who we're serving. Since COVID, we really haven't been consistent with those, but we're looking to pick it back up. And our staff, we were just talking about a couple of weeks ago, the need to even get with some of the social workers, the case managers, to make sure they understand our program. So when they're going out, a lot of them go out and help our special program participants find housing. They'll be more well-versed and can help kind of remove some of the stigma. I believe what we could, and this goes back to one of our goals, the marketing and branding. I believe we can do more as it relates to educating the whole public, kind of like some of the aha moments you all had today when we talk about how our programs and services really work, that we need to do more of that in the community for landlords to really go out and advocate for the program and solicit new landlords. I'll tell you, we had one landlord just recently. We had a veteran who was looking for housing, and she wanted $1,500, and the landlord was gracious enough, he could only pay $1,000, and she took it. She reduced her rent $500. It's a landlord in this community. If you do that times 12, that she's missing, so she could help this veteran.
That is one of those you should kind of put out there.
And
A little more.
exactly, absolutely, absolutely. So I think we can do a better job of that, maybe having kind of like a thank you in the paper, in the community, when people are doing extraordinary things that will help, that maybe get others. So I believe marketing and branding, we can do a better job.
We all can, speaking from the city. I think as far as those strategies, are those for current participating landlords, or is there like an outreach to get like new landlords?
We have an outreach that we're to look for new landlords. Yes, ma'am. And she was a new landlord.
Okay. And last one for this round, I guess, of questions until I get more questions.
That's okay.
I don't know the answer. Is the Housing Authority eligible for LIHTC? For low-income housing tax credits? Like, are you guys allowed to?
That's the 9%.
Yeah, okay.
That's the 9%.
Okay, I just want, okay, all right.
That's the only game in town. It's highly competitive, and you have to get a good lottery number.
Yes.
So it can take you, that's why we're excited about the Choice neighborhood. Another opportunity. And the Housing Authority do a pretty good job of looking at what's available in our community for funding and trying to go after it. The Choice neighborhood, we will not be able to do without the city. The city has to be at the table, and along with all of our other partners in the community. But one of us would have to be the lead agency, and the other would be the co-lead. But they would like to see the Housing Authority and the city coming together for Choice neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Chair Thorpe and CEO and board and staff, thank you very much for the presentation. It's outstanding. And I think, kind of thinking along the lines of marketing and branding, the reasons it's outstanding is because it deals with the practical. It's got a lot of the numbers, whether it's vouchers or units or income, folks on waiting lists that were basically formed the bulk of the questions I had to refamiliarize myself with Gainesville Housing Authority. So it's very, very helpful as it relates to that. I am really interested in hearing a little bit more about the choices and what that means from a partner perspective. I don't think I grasped it as well as I should have.
This may not. So, I mean, we literally were on the, Malcolm kind of, GHA staff, we literally were on the call like she said today. And I've signed up to receive emails from HUD, and they announced the no for today for the choice neighborhood. So this should give you kind of a description of how it works. In a nutshell, what they want the housing authority or the city to do is to identify a neighborhood. You said, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, I'm kind of going. To set the boundary of a section of your city or a neighborhood. In the case of what we're recommending is you're familiar with the Lake Road area, East University Avenue. So Pine Meadows, we're about to do $1 million or so in Caroline Manor, so Pine Meadows and Lake Terrace. We can circle that out. Caveat, we did apply for this grant, and the city was a partner of ours. We applied for the grant in 2020. We applied for the grant. We were not successful. But what we learned from that application is it's an extremely heavy lift, a really heavy lift, a really heavy application process. You're supposed to bring together not only the city and the housing authority, but also other nonprofit partners. It's a myriad of partners to bring together a myriad of sources to help totally redevelop a section of your community. So if you can imagine, and again, this is fresh off the top, we got the information today, we would have to replace the public housing within that area. We'd have to replace it 1 for 1, but we also would have the opportunity to add market rate and mixed income housing in there. One thing about the housing authority that we are blessed with, because our properties are 50 or so years old, is we're kind of land rich. The sites are underdeveloped. So we're talking about a lot of acreage in and along East University Avenue with the potential to be redeveloped with new public housing or voucher properties, as well as market rate properties, various types, single family homes. I mean, it really is sky's the limit in terms of how you can redevelop using this program. And what I will do is I'll send it to the city manager. I'll send some examples of other communities and what they've done. And I mean, it's an absolute game changer. But it's a heavy lift. And so we would need city staff or a consultant, perhaps. We can figure out how we will partner on that to fund it. There's an organization we talked to years ago. Was that Purpose Built Communities? They're housed out of Atlanta. They've done a lot of work in Atlanta. They were willing to come down and kind of lead it for us if we would have been successful. So it's, again, today, we got 60 days.
There's an ask.
So it does make me think, Mr. Kyle, I was looking at the solicitation date in 60 days to close.
Yes.
And then you use the term heavy lift. And then it's got some language, I'm just kind of assimilating as I'm looking right now at this solicitation. It says revitalize severely distressed public housing. I know there's probably some formulas that determine what is it that's severely distressed. So you have to comply with what that particular definition is.
And, well, we have what's called a physical needs assessment,
Yes,
and we shared it. We can share that as well. But as you all see, we receive only so much to do so much with in terms of maintenance, preventative maintenance, and our properties, they need some TLC, they need some love. So we don't think it'll be too hard to meet that threshold, and that is what this particular grant is designed for. As Ms. Pam said, there's the trend. It's not even a trend; it's actuality that HUD is kind of going away from traditional public housing, and this is a tool that they have offered to communities in order to transform the said community and everything that comes with the connotation of public housing in a community and the things that happen in and around public housing. And so this is to address that as well as create new housing stock.
What is it's a $500,000 max award?
But this is just for planning. And a portion of this funding can use to do some community projects. So they gave an example of a community today. They were able to build, and although we have Cone Park, we would include that in the neighborhood. A community was able to build like small library branches using some of this funding or help fund some of that. So they're small things. They're also like little community grants. So I know the city had facade grant programs and things of that nature. Some of this funding could possibly be used in that way. But we would have to, obviously get together and figure out what our strategy would be moving forward. But it's, again, it's an opportunity.
One last question about the choice. So this is probably typically an annually recurring
Correct.
grant solicitation, is that right?
Yes. And this is, again, this is just the planning. The larger, the real dollars are with the implementation.
Yeah, the project.
Correct.
I just say that the Jobs Plus program aligns so well with the vision of what we do in the city and what you all do with GHA. It's incredible. No disincentives, getting folks who can earn money, if I'm understanding this correctly, then they don't take it away in some other way so that they can't pay rent, and you basically get career and job training. What's the length of time of that? Is this?
For that grant was for 3 or 4?
It was for 4 years.
It's for 4 years, and so we're actually coming up to the end. In August would be the end of the term of that program, but it was exciting. And we were able to do some other things, some job training programs, our partnerships with Santa Fe and GED programs to just try to encourage people to be more self-sufficient within our communities.
Well, that program sounds outstanding, and if you have the opportunity and it's a recurring, or you have the opportunity. I would assume
we had some families that did quite well during the period. Some families really took advantage of it and did quite well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Duncan Walker and the Chair Thorpe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Malcolm,
Yes, ma'am.
please don't leave. Please don't leave. Thanks for this. This is really good information, and it looks like an incredible opportunity that we have in kind of a short amount of time to try to attempt to get this money. I want to ask you a couple of things about this. The first is, you said we weren't successful in 2020 with getting the grant. What were the lessons learned? What were the things that we could do better? If we go for it this time, what can we do this go around to make this a successful grant application?
Well, in all honesty, we were kind of up against it last time. We discovered it, and it was kind of similar to this situation. And so we had to ramp up really fast. We had to hire consultants. We worked to get community partners. And in that, in putting it together, we hired a grant consultant. I believe we paid probably close to $6,000 or $7,000 for a grant consultant. Unfortunately, the consultants that typically do this had already been hired at that time. And so our grant writer, this was her first time writing this particular type of grant. And again, I say it is a heavy lift. It was all hands on deck. And we were unsuccessful because the mapping tool that we used, we didn't utilize and generate a map correctly. And so our application actually was like a lot of grant applications. It was kicked out of the process very early on. Now, the advantage that we have in this go around is that we still have a copy of that grant application. So a lot of that information, Pine Meadows and Lake Terrace are still Pine Meadows and Lake Terrace. So a lot of those things that we would need to add to the application, we have the data. We have the P&As, we have those things. It's just a matter of us coming together with city and city staff, as well as all of the community partners. And I'll give you an example of one, if anybody's familiar with Tampa Housing Authority and the developments that they've done in downtown Tampa. Well, that was a choice neighborhood grant. A part of a mix of a lot of different mixes. They used a huge capital stack, but that's choice. That's what choice can do.
Sure.
In terms of a game changer for a community.
Thank you for that, Malcolm. I am familiar with some of the things that Tampa has done, and they've done some tremendous work. I'd ask any of my colleagues who've not yet had a chance to familiarize yourself with it, go ahead and take a look at their website. Very, very life-changing things that they're doing in the way of affordable housing there. Let me kind of jump back, because I do have a few questions. As you know, the majority of your stock is in District 1. And many of you have heard from me many times my concerns about that aged infrastructure that needs attention, and we know that it's not easy. It's not easy work, and so I am interested in finding ways that we can address this. I want to ask some questions, Malcolm and Pam, perhaps, and I wonder if you might be able to do that. And it can be vague, it doesn't have to be spot on, just because it's information that I need, but I think also that the public would be interested in hearing it, especially after we've heard of some of the things that you are going to be working on in the future. On page 9, you gave us your portfolio, and thank you for that. This perhaps was in response to a request that I made when you did the walk around, Pam. Thank you very much for this. So on page 9, we have a list of your portfolio, your housing stock here. I wonder if you might be able to approximate the age of each one of these complexes and the last time they were renovated.
Renovated? Obviously, units are turned. The units are turned, and I was able to provide a tour to the commissioner and showed him the condition of a turned unit. But Oak Park is over 50 years old. Sunshine was built in and around 1972, 71. Caroline Manor, around 71, 72 as well. Forest Pines, probably, what's that? The 40s, I'm sorry.
The 40s? 1940?
And it's interesting, some of these properties have a history. I won't belabor the point, but that was actually, I think, housing built by the city of Gainesville in the 40s, as well as Caroline
And
Manor.
still under warranty, so you all need to fix it.
It was what they called back then workforce housing. So it was a form of public housing, workforce housing that transitioned to the Housing Authority. Lake Terrace is 50. Pine Meadows is, yeah, they're the same age. Lake Terrace and Pine Meadows are both over 50, both built in about 70, 71. Woodland Park was built in 68. Eastwood Meadows was built in about 81, okay. Eastwood, and for those that aren't familiar with Eastwood, Eastwood is the property we own right next to Eastside High School, and it's more or less 50 single-family houses, 3 and 4 bedroom houses, and then Sweetwater is brand new.
So as far as renovations are concerned, we put about $647,000 into Oak Park about, I want to say about 5 years ago. That went for like generators, a new roof, a security system, Sunshine Park, what was it, about 700,000? About 750,000 on the exterior.
Facades improvement. And all new ACs.
And all new ACs with some of our dollars that we received from COVID, the ARPA money. We put in all new ACs at Sunshine Park. As far as big renovations where it's $700,000, $600,000, that's about it. Other than that,
Eastwood,
we have just spent.
Eastwood, all new
we
roofs
did
and all new
roofs,
HVACs.
Yeah. Some roofs in Caroline Manor, but we'll be getting the rest of them.
Yeah, some in Lake Terrace as well, some roofs in Lake Terrace.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Commissioner Willis, you mentioned a map or a tool, so to speak. I remember a conversation that we were having in this very space a couple of months ago. I believe it might have been in my conversation about equitable development, where I mentioned the development of a map. I would love to somehow see that become a reality, because I think it's really important for us to be able to map where these affordable housing efforts are. You know, there will be some type of movement, some type of partnering with the Gainesville Housing Authority and other individuals that have come to the table, and I think it would be a wonderful way for us to not just be able to visualize it, but for us to be able to have a tool to use for data purposes moving forward. Do we have to that tune in terms of data?
So,
Is there a 10-year plan that is something that is tangible that we could have as the commission? Is there something that you have? Is it available on your website? Well, not on the website, because I don't see it on the website.
We have a 5-year plan
We
that
have a
we do for
5-year
HUD
plan.
every year.
Okay.
But as it relates to where our Housing Choice Voucher participants are residing, what we can do, and that we can get you that relatively quickly, is give you the zip codes, and maybe your mapping department can
GIS, what I was
put
gonna
it on a
recommend.
map for you.
Gotcha, I'm off the map. off the
okay,
map.
I'm sorry.
In more ways than one, I'm off the map. But not to the mapping issue as much as wanting to see outline
Like a redevelopment
what
plan?
your redevelopment plan, what your capital plan is, what is the plan moving forward 10 years out? Do we have something that is available that is
We don't have a
tangible?
10-year, we have a 5-year.
You have a 5-year, okay.
We
So we
don't
do it in
do
5-year
2-year.
increments?
Yes.
Okay,
Very
Share
fluid.
that.
okay, okay, okay. Can we get copies
Oh, yes.
of that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have a few more questions for you. Who are your public sector partners? Your public sector partners?
Oh,
Or your
Public-
private,
Public
your
sector.
private sector?
right.
So, well,
The 258 landlords we serve, it would be our project-based voucher participants that we also work with caring and sharing. We work with Partnership with Strong Families. We work with the Center for Independent Living. We work with the COC, the Veterans Association. I'm sorry, so I said.
Any developers?
Currently, no. And reason being is because we have to put out an RFP, we're a public entity, and they require us to procure everything, like the city. And so unfortunately, we have to go out and, we do have
Just
one
Woodland,
partner
yeah,
for
Woodland.
Woodland Park that we've procured. But we don't have any others at this time as far as developers.
Okay, okay.
Because we would have to procure it.
Got you, okay. Give me just a second.
Santa Fe.
How do you determine how many vouchers go with each complex? I noticed on one of the slides, I don't know right off which one it is, but is there a way that it gets determined, or is it just based
Absolutely.
on?
Absolutely.
So how does that get arrived at?
HUD says 25% of the housing stock that an owner owns is eligible if it's existing housing. We can do 100% for senior housing only, new development.
Okay.
So there's a formula based on the owner's amount. We can project base up to 25%.
Are you all collecting any kind of data with regards to outcomes? Meaning you have programs that you're running at your different locales. Are we collecting data with regards to your participants, what's happening with them in the program, when they leave the program? And if so, that might be available in your report. But are you collecting that? And if so, where is it?
Currently, we are collecting it for the Job Plus. We have a monthly report that we send to HUD, quarterly report, I'm sorry. And then, so we can provide those for anybody who wants them. And then, we showed in our PowerPoint, we go back and look at the dollar amount. We don't do a good enough job, again, that's that marketing and branding piece of it. Because just like our resident services program, the number of residents that we have served from the beginning, we're well over probably $2 million that residents have earned off the housing authority since we started our job training entrepreneurship program. We got so many acronyms, I'm sorry. And the numbers, and we typically go back and we run the reports when we need them. And we should keep them where it's ongoing. And that's something that we are in the process of hiring a marketing company that they're gonna be helping us to develop.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Madam Curry, I have a question for you. If you would refresh my memory, we have an RFP, is it not, that's out on the streets right now
We do have a notice of funding
A
availability.
notice of funding availability.
Yes, ma'am.
And is that money that the Gainesville Housing Authority can apply for?
It is probably in partnership in order to leverage, but it's ARPA money.
Okay, they have not applied?
I do not know that if they did or not,
Yeah,
Mr.
Yes, we figured we were in the cone of silence, but we did apply, so we did
Okay.
put that in the presentation.
Okay.
Didn't
All
want
right.
to salsa concert.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. That's information that I was curious about. I was not aware of that, and I'll have a okay, thank you. I'm curious because there is another pot of money that's available. And I always get this organization's name wrong, but the Gainesville Housing something that is
Development
loosely
Corporation.
thank
Florida-
you.
yes. Okay.
Loosely associated, loosely associated. Got about $8.5 million from the sale of Seminary Lane. Is that some money that this board has asked about, inquired about, tried to tap into?
Now we're in the cone of silence, aren't we? I'm sorry, it was
Let's talk
You
about
don't
that
sound silent.
relationship. Let's talk about that relationship. Gainesville, Florida Housing Corporation was created to help the housing authority with adding additional affordable housing to the community. Because of the litigation that they have been under, they have not come to any meetings with us because we govern in the sunshine just like the city. And so they really did not want to come because they had some legal stuff going on. My understanding that is wrapping up, and we are hoping to meet with them real soon.
So there is a plan to ask them.
Oh,
To assist.
absolutely. We hope
Okay.
to work with them on this
Very good.
affordable housing order. Absolutely.
Okay, okay. We'll start wrapping this up, I think. I got you. I did have a question, Mr. Mayor, and this might be more for you. Two questions, or maybe one question and then one comment or recommendation. Did you have a plan to convene this regularly, or is it historic that we have these meetings regularly?
So we had a meeting like this in 2018, right down here. And then we have had as an agenda item on either general policy or at a regular commission meeting, a couple, maybe 3 times in the last 4 or 5 years. And it is not a regular occurrence. I think it should be a regular occurrence.
Absolutely.
I really, at a minimum of once a year, say a minimum. We probably can't fit more than about once a year, but at least once a year, we ought to be eyeballing each other around a table like this. I mean, I think that's how we do better work, so.
Yeah, that would definitely be my recommendation. I would love to see it probably be more than once, but definitely make this a regular, recurring thing. And the other thing I want to mention to my colleagues is we heard that there is a need for a level of support. That's one piece of it, but also just in terms of our investment. I would like to see, moving forward, someone from the city on the board. Now, I don't know if there is Dan Nee is not in here to speak. There he is. Hi, Dan.
Hiding in the corner.
You know, I don't know, Dan, what the legal piece to that is, but I think it may be valuable to, we have a housing department that has a specialized expertise that might be valuable as a representative from the city, a part of the board moving forward. Dan, is there something that would preclude that?
I think you'd have dual office holding issues unless it was somehow, the workings of the board would change such that there's an ex officio member a part of it, but as things stand now, I think it would be impermissible.
Impermissible as things stand now.
Wouldn't be allowed, correct?
Mr. Mayor, to that point a little bit, that's sort of our goal was, I came on, former city commissioner, Commissioner Chestnut was on, former city commissioner, GG, and then obviously we lied to Ralph and got him on. But our goal was to have people familiar with the policies of the city so we can convey that back and forth, and that's
Yeah.
something we have been doing.
I got
In
you.
that same attempt, the same vein you're trying to go with,
I'm talking specifically housing. So like Corey's sitting in the back.
right?
And that's and I hear you completely.
Right.
Commissioner Craig, but I'm thinking a more deeper specialized knowledge and representing the city. But if it's not currently permissible, then it's not currently permissible. I'll think about that.
No problem. And we're always available at any time you want us to come in and talk or meet with staff. We can do that to help learn some more, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how you need help. Malcolm just said it, and he asked the city for help. So what I'm saying is.
No, I'm with you 1,000%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if you have somebody that's already there, that could, but we can't do that, so that's it. Let me wrap this up, okay? Just one thing as we move forward, as we think about how we're going to help, you know, if we're going to give lots or whatever, I would ask my colleagues that we always remind, mindful. First, it is obviously a concern that we definitely address the needs of these 50-plus-year-old communities. But then also, that as we look to do new things, that we are not concentrating poverty, that we put into practice equitable development, which is something that we did say that we are committed to. So that means spreading things, putting things close to resources, and spreading the types of housing throughout the city of Gainesville. I'll conclude at this time. Thank you.
Chair Thorpe.
Yeah.
And then Commissioner Chestnut.
I just have 3 things that I want to either touch back on or ask. The first.
Thanks for being patient. You had the law back.
It's no worries. I wanted to touch back on the Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant. In a prior life, I was a planner. And so the Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant is a phenomenal program. It's life-changing. It's neighborhood-changing. The housing, though, just so everyone knows, is just the beginning part of it. It's the anchor for neighborhood revitalization as a whole, which is why it's so important that we need partners in it. And it's business partners, it's the city, it's the University of Florida, it's everybody. One of the reasons why, and Malcolm, thank you for bringing it up, I was going to bring it up, Tampa did so well is because of the multitude of partners that came together to make it work. This first phase of it gives us the opportunity to map it out. We don't have to have in great detail how we will revitalize the community. We just have to have the plan of this is our vision and this is the neighborhood we want to impact. You need local businesses. It's a culmination of everybody coming together to transform an entire neighborhood, not one housing facility. And so I think we would be amiss if we sat around this table and talked about affordable housing and improving our community and not make a commitment to work together on making sure this gets in and gets forward and we give our best shot as a city to make that happen, or at least give ourselves a chance to achieve it and get it. Pam, I would like to direct that we form a special committee just to work on this for the next 2 months. Okay. All right. And then the other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about was, I just wanted a little bit of a clarification for Commissioner Psycho. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name. You got it right. When we talk about the graduating, really the participants, unless they're in the Jobs Plus program or one of the other programs, they're not graduating. They're graduating out of those programs. Overall, when we talk about people moving up and out, they are changing their economic status. That's our hope. That is our goal. We would like to be able to offer opportunities. How do you get educated and go to college? How do you build a business or a trade if you don't want to go to college? How do we give our participants access to different opportunities that will get them out of public housing, will get them off of Section 8 and choice things. So they don't necessarily graduate, but they elevate, they level up. And so I just want to make sure there's a little bit of a distinction.
Sorry, that's the word we use with the CRP program. It was lack of a better term, but elevate works better.
Yes.
But, yeah, I was just trying to say, how do we get out of this?
Yes, the ultimate goal is to get as many people as possible out of that, it's a good starting point, but you don't want to stay there because we all want the American dream. And so how do we give them access to opportunities to show them there is something other? And then my last question is, I really wanted to kind of get an understanding of how does this commission see our role? What do you see us doing? We come and we present, we have this official agreement now, but what does that really mean? What does that mean as it relates to how we are going to work together? And I think it's because we don't necessarily have a clear definition of how you see us. I know how we want you to see us. We want you to see us as any affordable housing, any housing need that you have, you come to us and we help solve it. You give us resources to help you solve it. We are that extension. That's how we want you to see us. I don't believe that's how you see us. And so, how do you see us?
That's a great question. Commissioner Chestnut, maybe you conclude, Chair Thorpe.
I am, I'm done.
And I will try to add my take on that as we
Yeah.
come back around. So Commissioner Chestnut and Commissioner Duncan Walker.
Okay, I have two questions, and I'll come back to your question. If I could get some more information on the Elite Training Center, I was very intrigued by that, because it sounds like you're not only going to use that as a center for your participants, but that you're reaching out to the community.
Absolutely.
Could you talk about that just a little bit more?
So, the Job Training Center, of course, anything we do is with our resident and participants in mind. But everybody in this room, because we're the city and you all are obligated for Section 3 just like we are, because you receive federal funds. Anybody in our communities, in the locality of our public housing, is also eligible to participate at the Job Training Center. We are currently talking to the Apartment Association. They said we provide the building, they'll provide the teachers. We've had some very preliminary talk with Cox because they would like to get more minority employees. They have maybe some interest in training at the site. So what we hope to do is develop, have this training center where other businesses come and train, so our residents and the people in the surrounding community can become employed and empower them economically. As our chair said so graciously, we're about economic empowerment because we believe that is the way to empower families.
Okay, thank you. I want to follow up on engaging in a longitudinal study, and I think that's where Mr. Willits was going. But if you look at the Perry preschool study, it was a 30-year study on preschool education. And with that study, they were able to tie the correlation between early intervention and juvenile justice, early intervention crime, early intervention long-term education. Florida State was involved in a portion of it at one time. But I think you're going to need a commitment from a university to follow it long-term, because I think the benefits of it can really be astounding. And probably, HUD would probably be interested in special funding for it. So look at that. I see your role as a partner, a collaborator with the city. I think that we must collaborate with many partners on housing. You may be our prime agency, but that we need to reach out because we need many voices. There's a great void, and we can't get enough people to help us to resolve it. So I see you as a partner, as a collaborator with us in addressing it. Thank you.
Mr. Dr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chair Tharp, I wanted to just dovetail on something that you spoke to a little while ago that's very important to me whenever you're talking about housing. And this commitment through your programs and through putting roofs over heads, it is a commitment to improving outcomes for people. And that's something that I firmly believe in. I wonder, and if it is not currently, what my request would be is that in plans moving forward, that we could see that we can start to see those numbers so we can measure our progress. I think that's the only way we're able to do it. Perhaps that'll take a little bit more work, but how can we say that we're getting it done unless we're measuring it? We heard Malcolm mentioned purpose-built a little bit earlier in his conversation, and I wonder if he might just really briefly say whether or not there's a plan to bring purpose-built in. I am familiar with the organization, with their efforts throughout the country. I like the model, and I'm curious to know if the Gainesville Housing Authority has a plan to move forward on that.
So, again, it's today's news that the NOFA was released, and yes, we would have every intention of reaching back out to them. Well, now that we've been asked to create a committee, I probably will be on it. So I will be contacting them to see if they would be interested in coming back down. But we had several conversations with one of their vice presidents, almost to the point that they were going to start to make site visits come down, and they were very interested. I think they've recently are either wrapped up or working on a project in Tallahassee. So
Okay.
one of those new developments in Tallahassee, they are a part of it. They called it they call the community partners community quarterbacks, and they want to identify, like, you as District 1, you would be a quarterback, the mayor would be a quarterback, and they really are good at finding the most valuable stakeholders, as well as coming and bringing the community along and on board. So, yeah, we'll reach out.
Thank you for that. I had begun to have some conversations around purpose building. So there are some folks from the county and the school board, and a few other stakeholders that are very, very interested in coming to the table. So to the extent that you all are willing to include us, we'd like
those would be the folks we need if we to pursue the choice neighborhood.
already postured.
All right.
All right, thank you. You asked a really good question, Chair Tharp. And what I will say is, I think what lies before us is an incredible opportunity to do better than we have before. To move the needle towards addressing severe housing issues. We know we have aged infrastructure, but we now have resources that we've never had before. We have people around the table who I think have a willingness to address that, at least with some of those resources, okay? I think that the potential to move the Gainesville community at large ahead, to create some generational shifts, exists. I am hopeful. I'll answer the question that way because that's how I feel. I'll say I am going to yield or make myself available to the extent that anyone around this table wishes to use me. Because at the end of the day, I think it's possible that everybody around the table wants the same thing. I don't really want to dwell on the past. I want to look towards the future and figure out how we can address the needs. Interestingly enough, I had had conversations with some people that I trust who work in the housing space in other places. And I asked them, is there a model housing authority that you see in the state? And they told me Tampa. Now, I don't mean that to slight our housing authority at all, but I asked them why, okay? Because I think that's important. And it's why I said to everybody around the table, if Tampa is doing something, let's look at Tampa. I don't have that kind of pride that keeps me from looking at someone that may be doing something well, especially when it helps people, and say, let's adopt some of the things that they're doing there to help Gainesville's people as well. I tip my hat to everybody around this table, especially because you donate your time, you're giving your time to this. That's not lost on me. I thank you. The staff people work hard. I get it. And sometimes most times you're working under-resourced in every way. I have not been bashful about expressing some concerns that I had, and still have. But I think we're going to move forward. And that is what I will say. So, there are a number of people that are brought to the table who don't have the formal partnership that you all have with us. And I will tell you that I'm about being fair, what that means. You see what I'm saying? But I also understand the services that you provide. And to a degree, they're different from what other people will come to the table providing. I think we have a conference, I think it is, Madam Curry, that's coming up, a housing conference. Is that what it is?
If I might, Mr. Mayor, we had been asked, actually by Commissioner Chestnut, and had discussions with you about having a housing summit. To be very honest with you, based on things that we're challenged with right
For
now,
sure.
we've set that aside.
I
And so, no,
understand.
ma'am.
Okay.
It is not continuing in the planning
And
process.
and thank you, because I wasn't aware that it had been tabled. I was going to ask when it was,
Yeah.
but totally understood. Absolutely understood that we've had to reprioritize that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And if I might, Mr. Mayor, if I can just make one more comment. We did get an email from Malcolm today. He is good at asking. But we did get an email from him requesting our support with the Choice Neighborhood Grant. I'm familiar with it. It is not only about housing, it's about people, it's about communities. It is similar to the old empowerment zone grants under the Clinton administration, when you had to go through a planning grant process to get to the implementation stage. It is very competitive. It is a holistic approach to grant writing, which would, as mentioned, not only entail the governmental institutions, but academic institutions, community-based organizations. It is a big deal. And to the degree that at this point in time, with the things that we're dealing with, that we can find staff to assist them, we're happy to do that. We already have a couple of people in mind that will be able to hopefully support them and whatever committee we put together.
Thank you, Madam Curry. Thank you. I conclude.
Thank you. So I'll get to Commissioner Side. You're good? Okay, then I'll come back to Commissioner Chapel. We just did. Commissioner Willets, I'll get you as well. Let me chime in a little bit here. Going back to 2018, when we had that meeting down here, in a much smaller room back then, I was dubious about working with the Housing Authority back then. And I made my questions clear. And we, subsequent to that, went through some audits, and everything was clean. I mean, there wasn't a lot of reason to hold back. And then COVID happened, and everything slowed down. And then I was at a ribbon cutting, a dedication for the homes that on the land that the city had given the Housing Authority back in '21, and I was so impressed with what the Housing Authority and the Development and Management Corporation were doing, and the drive that they had and the numbers that you all were talking about as a board and as an actual organization. That's why I brought the idea back, and I told Craig that day that I would bring something forward in the next few months. And that's why in January of '22, I really started pushing this hard, because I think this matters. And it isn't that we don't have other folks out in the community who can do good things. I was at a Habitat dedication Saturday morning with Commissioner Willits that was tremendous. I mean, it's just heartwarming. It's wonderful. Good things are happening otherwise. But you all are inextricably legally tied to the city of Gainesville. You get what governments have to work with, but you also work in that space that is not quite government, which is it makes you a little more nimble, and you've got another corporation that you can work with, not to be confused with the Gainesville, Florida Housing Corporation, which the opportunity for confusion is rampant with all this stuff. But I feel like you all are poised to work with us and help us achieve our goal in a way that is difficult for any other organization to do, because you have a larger scope and federal mandates to be able to do the things that we need to accomplish. Again, that doesn't mean we shouldn't be working with other folks, both public and private. We should, but you all are tied to us in a way that nobody else can be. And it's interesting when we were talking about the ages of your portfolio. All that comes from the boost of Great Society money. I mean, that's where the Johnson and then Nixon administrations come through there, and then all of a sudden the tap turned off after that, which is a shame. But that's where all those public housing units come from, and that's why they're all 50 years old. Not that is old, but. I want us to be able to work more with you all. The initial impetus for this was to get as many units that we have, that the city of Gainesville has, that we don't have a name for, that we don't have any use for, to get those into your hands or somebody's hands to build places for people to live, because that's what this is all about. I mean, it's heartbreaking to hear the numbers of families just on your waiting list, because that's not everybody on a waiting list. That's just who got on your waiting list before you had to close it. Thousands of people in our community waiting for some help. And the faster we can get places for them to live, built, the better off everybody is. And I think that everybody generally agrees with that. So I'm hoping that we can move forward into some of that. Specific to the choice grant, how broad a geographic area can we talk about? And what makes sense to talk about? Do you think? And I know that you're at the beginning of this, but.
Yeah, we would definitely have to establish it, and we'll work with city staff on establishing that barrier. From what we were told today, just in general, it has to be, that public housing element has to be within that geographic area. My attempt at our last application was I tried to include our property, Forest Ponds in the back of Duval, and brought it as far back north as the city limits right after Cone Park. So that was the attempt we had last time, but we can have a discussion about the area of the neighborhood, because we wanted to try to include the Duval development, the neighborhood between Duval and our properties on East University, and then include Cone Park and the high school.
Right.
So
that's what I was thinking specifically with Lofton High School is, I mean, if we can stretch that far, then you get to include the school system.
right.
If you go a little bit farther the other way, you get to include a former elementary school as well. The County Housing Authority is just down the street from where you would kind of center this. So there's a lot of opportunity, particularly the closer we get to Hawthorne Road for some commercial partners as well. I don't want to, I mean, obviously we can't answer those questions today, but it's exciting to be thinking about that. I would imagine that if we can be successful, if you can be successful in the planning grant, that probably puts you in better stead to get the development grant then moving forward. I have had conversations with HUD Secretary Fudge about the choice grants, and was really blown away with the opportunities, and talking with folks in other cities about the success that they've had from that grant. And part of that is the process that they force you through. You know, so that there's a proven winning strategy for that, and if you can follow that strategy, good things are going to happen in the community. Not only because the money gets supplied to you, but because that proven package comes along with it. So I'm excited that you all are going to be a part of that. I'm hopeful that we can be helpful to you in that. And gosh, let's go ahead and talk to all the other institutional partners in town and see if we can't get help with that. I'm sure Cox would love to be a part of it from the commercial side, and a variety of others. All right, so we have Commissioner Sacco is good. We're going back to Commissioner Willetts and then Commissioner Chesney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Chair Tharp. I'm the new person, so I can only speak for myself. But I know that I've been thinking the past couple months that through different challenges we have at the city and different opportunities, having the Housing Authority as a constant presence and a constant partnership that returns us to the work or grounds us in the work, it's important to me because, you know, the next downturn in the housing cycle, when we start to shift towards thinking more about job creation or whatever. Right now we're in a housing, like everything. Housing is upstream of everything. And I've talked about this. In 2009, jobs was upstream of everything. And we're in a different kind of situation. But to have you ground us and bring us back to, so when we get busy on some things, we're currently busy with the with GRU legislature and budget, and having the Housing Authority as a constant partner, because you're constantly, you have your participants who are, you know, living in all of your sites and paying rent, and they're constant. So having that kind of constant partnership, but then also, and so that constant partnership, because as we do some new things, we have infrastructure surtax money. Well, we don't have it now. It's starting to come in, and we have a lot of decisions about how we spend that. Some of it can be in the housing world, but some of that is a model that we are perhaps not used to. Perhaps you're not used to, but we may have to develop. And the choice neighborhood, I'm thinking, you know, about, you know, if you say, I as a commissioner would love it if, you know, y'all had magic wands and work with Gainesville, Florida Housing Development Corporation and just bring that money on in. And maybe that's to that choice neighborhood, right? And if we have to give, if you have to give someone else credit to really bring them in, give them all the credit and laud them and bring them in, and because if it's about a whole neighborhood, but that doesn't keep, you know, old seminary, you know, laying funds kind of in seminary lane area or closer, which may be a concern. But looking forward to, you know, the choice neighborhood, I think already here you're providing and will continue to provide some inspiration about big ideas that perhaps aren't on our minds. Because just last week we were talking about the power district, right? And Commissioner Duckner, you missed it, but you know, even beginning talking about affordable housing there, community land trust, portions of it, you know, not all of it, but portions of it. So, you know, so we're all talking about that, thinking about that, but you're able to bring back this other idea, even if it's, we only got the information today, but you applied for it in the past. So I'm excited about that, particularly about how it's not, it's about a whole neighborhood and how not just changing one parcel, but then, and I'm excited about how that could dovetail into some of the things we have already thought about. University Avenue, safety improvements, because going all the way out to Cone Park, when we talk about redevelop, I don't want to say redevelop University Avenue, but change it, re-engineer it so that it is safer, and hopefully safer tends to be slower speeds, because that's something that cuts right through this neighborhood. If when we talk about changing a neighborhood, we're gonna have to change University Avenue with the state, partners with the state. But then also opportunities for how that kind of revisioning can remind us of some of our other goals and priorities, things we're talking about. We haven't decided on, but we're talking about. How we have smaller lot splits and smaller setbacks. So things like ADUs fit on them well. And in envisioning re-envisioning or reinvigorating a whole neighborhood, some of the things we've talked about or just barely started, could be involved in that as proof of concept, But I do know that at least, and I think we have started down this path of relying on you at least to partner for voluntary inclusionary zoning, but it could be in the future there is some appetite to look at mandatory inclusionary zoning, and that would be a great opportunity, but that's also, particularly if we're mandating, we're going to have to find a partner for that, and whether it's you always or you sometimes. I think that's somewhere we're going to have to deal with when we talk about inclusionary zoning, but we're going to need you along for that conversation before we go off making too many decisions about that. And the last thing I'll mention is, I didn't want to lead off with it, but since choice neighborhood kind of came back and it's about a whole neighborhood, is mixed income. Someone mentioned, I don't know if it was Malcolm, mentioned mixed income a little bit. There's interest in different parts of the community, but particularly, not even just here, but nationwide, about talking about, now they kind of call it social housing, where we really are mixing incomes, and so that rental revenue from people who are 100 AMI, 120 AMI, some of that, they can pay full fare, full market rate, and that can really help subsidize and keep money within GHA, and make sure that the neighborhoods are not concentrating poverty. You're moving people in, or as your goal, they're just moving up. They're just moving out of, they may have been at 50% AMI, and now they're at 120%, and they're paying full market rate, and they didn't have to leave their community to do that. So I'm excited that some of these ideas that are percolating up, a lot of them I think will include GHA, and I hope you are along with us for that wild ride. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Chestnut, and Commissioner Buckland, Mr. Simmons.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask, do we need a motion to formalize the participation with the choice grant application?
Madam Manager, would you feel more comfortable with can you move forward without a motion on tentatively until we get?
Are you talking to me?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
It's like, I don't know.
Give me a few minutes, I'll come up with it.
I do believe it would be appropriate, because if we're going to submit something to HUD, and depending on whose lead, I'm assuming that the agency would be, we would be a co, it would be appropriate for the commission to endorse that.
Well, I have that arrangement in the motion.
Great.
Okay. I move to authorize staff to assist the Gainesville Housing Authority in preparing and submitting a choice planning grant application to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Gainesville Housing Authority will serve as the lead agency with the City of Gainesville as the co-applicant.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second there. Commissioner, did you?
I conclude.
Commissioner Buckland.
Well, I appreciate that, because I do have a couple of questions that relates to what our financial obligations are as it relates to this. The timing is not great for the city, and let me just say that. And yet, supporting the vision and the mission of what this is, I would bet if we were able to talk directly and we were out in the hallway, we'd all be saying, this is fantastic, let's do it. So it really relates to resource, time, and money, when that may be one of our weak links at the moment. So could you tell us a little bit about, and does the grant itself is a planning, and I understand that, does the planning then obligate us on that second gigantic piece, if we were to get that, and assuming success, for what's the next stage, which is the project and the development and the years and the money?
At this point, we can't tell you what true financial commitment it is, but you get to vote how much you can or cannot spend with us. The biggest part is we cannot submit this and be properly prioritized without the City of Gainesville as a partner. Now, how that partnership works its way out, we can figure that out based upon everybody's positions when we get there. but it's just not a program that can happen without the city of Gainesville and the Gainesville Housing Authority working together.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I understood that part.
Yeah.
I see the match on the solicitation, and that's something that has to be worked out immediately, because that's resource dollars that come through the city, so that would not be able to be sat and figured out. What, do you have any other partners that might be lined up? I'm thinking about what the Mayor Pro Tem was saying when she was asking about public partners and private. Maybe talk a little bit about our relationship, or the GHA relationship with the Chamber, or what that might be.
Unfortunately, the grant just came out today, so we haven't had an opportunity to comb through it all
Yes, ma'am.
to see exactly what that match would be. But I'm sure some of it could probably be in kind.
It is.
And so we will definitely work with the city and other partners in our community to try to make sure that we can make this happen. So we're going after the planning grant, which would then give us the seed money we need to pull all of the partners together to be ready for the implementation grant that will probably come out early fall, summer or fall.
But staff time could also be an in-kind
Yes.
contribution.
And that's actually where I was
Yes.
going, because
Yep.
I hear the Madam Manager saying that they were prepared to provide time and resource, and every hour is dollars that are toward
Absolutely.
an in-kind match, if that's part of the grant. So that's really critical. Is that accurate, your understanding, at least on day one of a solicitation that's come out?
Absolutely, in-kind is important, and anything that we can leverage from the private sector or the community-based organization also counts. And I would never commit the city of Gainesville, particularly on a monetary basis, unless I came back to the commission through GPC or regular board, so you can be assured of that.
Thank you, Madam Manager, we're on the same page. Ms. CEO, the relationship that you currently have with the Chamber, what is that, or is that something that?
For us?
This is broader than the grant. I'm just thinking in general, and the manner in which you can obtain other partnership and help and collaboration, which makes us all better.
Absolutely. We can definitely work with the chamber.
That might be, Madam Chair, considering a membership by GHA in the Chamber, which is not costly, but may give you access to resource and time and data, which may then help on grant and process and solicitation.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am, that's it. Just
Thank
a
you.
thought. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Simmons.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is for the city of Gainesville. Do you all currently have a affordable housing strategy in place? And if so, are we, Gainesville Housing Authority, are we a part of that strategy? And if so, in what way?
Madam Manager, you want to address that? Or?
I will, and I want Corey to follow me up here too. And so, yes, we are. In fact, back in, I believe it was September, may or may not be the right month, but the commission actually approved the memorandum of understanding with the Gainesville Housing Authority, and there are several elements to that that we are committed to, and that I think we have already actually accomplished some of the elements under those. Corey, you may want to move forward with that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Corey Harris, Housing and Community Development. Mr. Mayor, to the Commission, to the Board Chair of GHA, and to the Board members. Ms. Curry is correct. There's a number of things that we outlined in that MOU. Some of the things that you guys have talked about already. We were prepared to do a presentation just to talk a little bit more about that, but I think Malcolm and the team, and Ms. Davis, they did a fine job of really illustrating some of that potential, well, some of the language that's in that MOU agreement. It talks about when funding's available, and we would look to provide funding to GHA. We will support potential engagement piece. Oh. Support development piece as far as when it comes to community engagement and how we can leverage some of the resources we have at our disposal with some of the things that they have at theirs as well. So.
Right. And so, just to reiterate, we have already committed, the city of Gainesville has already committed home and ship money to the Housing Authority, as well as Community Development Block Grant money. We have donated lots. We have about 20 to 25 additional lots on our list of sheeted properties. Is that about right, Andrew? That we can review with the Housing Authority and of course come back to the commission and see if in fact granting additional lots is, appropriate. But we have all those opportunities to explore. We have a couple of people who I believe are in a position to assist in this situation, which is the immediate request regarding the Choice Neighborhood Grant. We have a couple of people that I think would be ideal working with them. I think that as the committee is put together, we can probably reach out to Eric Day at the Chamber and have someone from the Chamber, someone from the University UF, someone from Santa Fe, appropriate community-based organizations, but look to those institutions that have resources that can be leveraged similar to the city of Gainesville with the human resources that Andrew and I have in mind. So I think we've proven that we may not, to the degree that the Gainesville Housing Authority would like, be the only partner that we dedicate resources to, but clearly an important partner, and we do work together, we do confer, and we will do it to the best of our ability and hopefully be successful this time with the Choice Neighborhood Grant.
I don't want us to leave here, well, I do not want to leave here without really letting this body know that we do have an affordable housing crisis, and I think we are very well aware of that. I'm in the industry. I see it all the time. People cannot afford homes. So hopefully with this joint meeting, we can strategize, we can come up with a plan and a solution to accommodate affordable housing crisis. Again, I see it firsthand on a daily basis, So I just really want us to grasp our heads around the crisis that we have in this city, in our county. This is a big deal. This is a very big deal. So I'm optimistic about today's meeting, and I'm hoping that we can come up with a solution and provide housing for those who need it.
Thank you. Commissioner Duncan Walker, and then we'll go to the public, and then we'll come back and see what we can move forward.
Really quickly, Mr. Mayor, it was just a request. GHA has done a great job of providing us with some information. It is perhaps that they don't have, Madam Curry, our framework, affordable housing framework, or our plan. Is that something that, well, I would like to ask that we provide that to all of the members of the board so that they can see where the city of Gainesville is headed?
Right. I was going to say Commissioner Simmons, but I guess it's still appropriate once a commissioner, always commissioner.
They're all commissioners on this.
We're actually commissioners here too.
So you did ask if we had a strategy or a framework. We do. It was approved by the commission, and we will be happy to present that to all of the members of the committee.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Curry. I think you all will find it exhaustive in a lot of ways. There are a number of definitions at the beginning of it and a plan for how the city of Gainesville is going to move forward. And Madam Curry, I do believe that, well, actually there is a list of partners on there and GHA is on there.
Absolutely.
So thank you all so much.
All right, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, let's go to the public.
Donna Shepherd.
Mr. Shepherd, come on up. Yeah. Anybody else who wants to speak to this, please fill out a form and let's move this expeditiously.
Hi, Peter. My name's Donald Shepard. I call myself a people's representative, and I've been doing this for 14 years. This is a severe need of housing. When we got so many people living at out the Grace Marketplace and out in these housing places that are in our city, we need to empty them. We need to take and put those people in houses. It makes me cry inside to see these people on the side of the bike trail coming here from Grace Marketplace and see and crying that they don't have no help. We need to help there. I'm one of those people that need housing also. These people, they should be coming first. There's a military man, I don't know if this man she mentioned, or they mentioned, the group, was one of those men, but he's got like $14 million coming, and he's living at Grace Marketplace. Why can't we give him some money to have him pay back once he gets his money from the military and the VA to pay back to the city, and he's living out there. Many of our soldiers are living out there, and we need to develop a housing complex like tiny houses that we mentioned before this group of commissioners came. But this is something that's needed for them. Also, there was a lot of great topics that were brought up here today, and I thank you for working so hard towards making this possible. There's few things that I got educated about today, and I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for all you do. I tell that to everybody I meet, because that is what God tells me to do, to thank people for what they do. And that's what we should do every day of our lives. Walk up to a person and say, thank you for what you do. That goes a long way. And these people are champions in that. Ms. Kruger has been working her butt off to make this happen. And like I said, it makes me cry to see this happen. But I think we're going to handle it. We got a good mayor now, and we got good staff. So let's move forward in lightning speed. Thank you.
Thank you for what you do, Mr. Shepard.
Colleague Meyer.
Mr. Plow?
Thank you. Well, I deeply agree about the image problem and public outreach, because so many people think Ms. Davis is doing something villainous with what she's doing at Woodland Park. And anybody who knows public housing from the inside knows that the way the federal government is steadily chopping back funding to public housing, those public-private partnerships are the only way to maintain public housing units. Now, of course, I have deeply disagreed with some things GHA has done. Before I get to that, I want to mention Commissioner Walker's question about having a representative at the GHA board. I had the impression that the attorney was answering the question as if she meant a commissioner, a city commissioner going to that when you said dual appointment, and she was talking about Mr. Harris or some similar staff person. So I think it's a different question. So here's a list of amenities: access to public mass transit, access to basic education for children, access to higher education, to health care, to employment centers, and to good markets. That's the list of amenities that would be available to clients of public housing if there was still public housing on the site at Seminary Lane Apartments. So I want to know if GHA or its affiliated organization, I'm not going to try to mess with that name again, have real confidence about being able to take that $8.5 million and get housing someplace that has at least that list of amenities available.
Okay, so back to the commission and the board. Did you want to take a stab at Mr. Blott's question, or do you want to try to do that offline?
I don't think we can answer that until we meet with the board
Gotcha.
of the other
Right.
associations.
Okay. Very good. All right, anyone else before we come back into it for a vote? All right.
What is the vote? Is
Well,
it
I was
just a
just
motion?
gonna ask,
Oh, thank
yeah.
you. Nothing changed since I, okay, thank you.
Did you want to restate the motion?
I'll restate it.
Thank you.
I move to authorize staff to assist the Gainesville Housing Authority in preparing and submitting a choice planning grant application to the Department of Housing Urban Development. The Gainesville Housing Authority will serve as the lead agency with the City of Gainesville as the co-applicant.
All right. Okay, no other questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously, Madam Clerk. Anyone else have anything to bring before either body as we go?
Can we hear from some of the folks who didn't speak, Chelsea? Or barely spoke? Please.
I think they're mostly staff.
There are people.
Well, I'm just so happy to be here, and that's it.
Thank you.
Man, I've spoken before this stuff for so long, I don't want to speak again, but I will say this. I think the Choices Program represents an opportunity that allows us to plan for the whole community, not just housing, but relook at the zoning and see what we can do. We can probably increase the amount of housing because we don't have the urban transit zoning out there. So there's a lot of opportunities that I think that we can afford ourselves by being a part of the Choices Program and develop a real community.
I just want to say really quickly, I want to echo what Commissioner Duncan said. I am hopeful as well. I think this was a very fruitful meeting. Similar to you, maybe in 2008, I somewhat have some apprehension at times because we have a mandate, and I don't want to be slowed down in the mandate to find housing and make it happen. And so this was encouraging on very, very many levels. And I think we have an opportunity to do great work together and have very frank and honest conversations with one another, which is helpful and needed. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. All right, so moving on from that topic, we'll move into member comment. No member comment here? Okay, excellent. So the Gainesville City Commission side of this is adjourned.
At this time, I'd like to call the Gainesville Housing Authority adjourned.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.